It is my sole desire in life to create a groundswell of people who are armed and ready and dangerous when it comes to solving really big problems. What I've found is that most often people are stopped because they don't know where to start. And what we want to do is give them the tools to start. And not just to start, but to really think things through and come up with thorough solutions.
And the CollaborateUp formula does that by breaking this process into 3 stages, starting with data, then recruiting strange bedfellows or partners, and finally co-creating experiments to quickly test and scale solutions. But first, you need to take a hard look at the issue and narrow the problem, decide what needs to be different, envision success or when you know the problem is solved, and understand what's already going on.
And then we really try to think about who has a vested interest in solving that problem. And we work with either, it might be a nonprofit, might be with a company, might be with the government, but we really then try to figure out who has the most at stake if nothing happens.
And then you need to reach out to these potential partners.
And that's actually where a lot of nonprofits go wrong, is they think that they have to really fully bake the idea. But really what the private sector and even the public sector wants is to be a partner with you. So you can't just go wildly into the blue, but you need to sketch out the problem enough so that you're at least understanding that we're playing baseball, not football. But then once you've got the people on the field, work with them to form up the answers.
And do that objectively by hosting a data lab.
And that data lab, all we focus on is what is true. What do we know about the problem? What does the science tell us? What does the data tell us? What we got to do is come to a consensus on what are the most important problems. So maybe the 5 or the 6 or the 10, and develop consensus that those are the problems. And those are the specific issues that we as a group want to tackle.
During this process, you should use the partner model canvas to outline your roles and approach.
People don't need to know everything about everything, but they do need to know a little bit about a lot. So the partner model canvas has 12 basic questions. And if you could answer those 12 basic questions, 1 or 2 sentences, 2 or 3 bullets, that gives people at least an understanding of what you're asking of them. And they can then go back to their organizations and really secure and lock down that commitment. Or decide this isn't for them. And oftentimes, I always say a hard no is better than a soft maybe. Many times what you're trying to do is figure out who's willing to play and who's not willing to play.
You may also realize you're missing a key contributor and need to add to your group. With this minimum viable partnership in place, you should then host a partner lab.
And in that partner lab, that's when the real partnership occurs. It's when we look at this and we have consensus about what the problems are, we have consensus about what the data tells us, we understand what commitments our organizations are willing to make, we've brought new players to the table who might never have been there before, and then we rapidly form them into partnerships with a specific goal of not just forming partnerships and programs, but to develop experiments, testable propositions that they can go out into the field and test whether or not they're working or not. And that also embraces failure, because then you know that not all those experiments are going to work, and that's okay. But the objective there is to find out what does work, shut down what doesn't, scale up what does.
And track the results.
Well, we've taken on a lot of big problems, from honeybee health to bringing solar energy to low-income neighborhoods, to community beautification, to nutrition and health initiatives. And what we've seen is an accelerated ability to come to agreement faster. We've seen an ability to accelerate the speed of trust so that partners are willing to work with each other much faster. We've compressed down the time that it takes to develop these programs from years to months. And we've been able to, through this use of smart experimentation, reduce waste and speed up and increase the impacts.
All by using this 3-stage formula, along with free online tools and support available on the CollaborateUp website.
I think if you follow those pretty basic steps, focus on the data, send people back to figure out their commitments, bring them together to design minimum viable partnerships, send them forth to experiment, but with testable propositions so that you know whether or not you've succeeded or failed, and figure out what's working, what's not working, and what you can bring to scale. It's not rocket science. It's also not incredibly easy. It takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of bravery, but if you do those steps, you're halfway down the road.